Alright, this is not a drill, everybody! Fellas, smellas, and everybody else under the umbrella. Grounded 2 is real! So I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I was actually literally in the middle of making a video about, like, my ideas for a potential Grounded sequel if they were ever to do such a thing myself. I'm sure you've seen at least one or two other people do a video on it before. I'm sure someone has. But I feel like the general consensus, at least online, especially in the subreddit, was that, we were like, it's a great time, but we didn't think that, the sequel was gonna happen. So everyone would always be like, hey, throw this bug in the sequel, what about this bug for a sequel? And so, I was like, you know what? Let's throw our hat in the ring and, we'll make our own, like, potential sequel idea. And literally as I just get to the early stages of making it, they fucking announced this. And since it's kind of hard to make, like, a hypothetical ideas video for something that's not really, hypothetical anymore, I thought let's turn this ideas video into a predictions video. So to start things off, let's talk about the story a little bit here. So it's gonna take place in Brook Hollow Park about 2 years after the first game. So I guess Ominous doing some like PR stunt or some shit, because they're gonna make some statues of Tully and the teens and also Burgle. Very important that there's Burgle there too. But regardless, at the unveiling of the statues, there's apparently some giant explosion. Oh yeah, and Wendell and the teens also go missing, but who cares about those guys? They got a statue already. But obviously that we know they got shrunken down. Except, wait, no, we don't know about Tully actually. So, in all of the gameplay that we've seen, we have not seen Tully since he's gone missing, so it might just be the kids on their own. We don't know yet. So, continuing on with the evacuation aspect, it really shows how much disarray the park was left in prior to the events of the game, and it makes really fun diegetic reasoning as to why there's these giant landmarks to explore. It does remind me how, like, the first time you go ziplining and you can really see, like, the camera pulled back and see the whole lawn and whatnot, and you just kind of look around and you're like, damn, Tully's yard's kind of a shithole, ain't it? But then you learn more about it and the reasons behind that, and they actually wrote lore, we're not gonna go into all the lore of Grounded 1 here, I'm gonna be working on a video about that on its own eventually, but regardless, it's so cool to see this organic storytelling come back for the second game. And the devs know they're cooking too. Some of the biomes they showed off in the trailer are so creative. Some of the whole, like, pandemonium, it looks like one of the ice cream carts got tipped over and all the ice cream kind of spills out and whatnot and, like, the doors left open. And that in itself becomes a new biome. And you can see, like, the teens running across on, like, ice. It looks like an Arctic biome or, like, these ice caves when they're inside of the actual, like, cart itself. But, like, it's just ice cream and other frozen treats. And, like, you can even see them, like, looking like they're mining strawberries. So that's definitely a new material, is whatever this candy strawberry would be. But regardless, this gave me another idea. What if this is, like, the opposite of the sandbox? Hear me out here. You know how when you're in the sandbox, you immediately start sizzling unless you have, like, proper sizzle protection or, ate a fuck ton of mints or what have you, This could be the polar opposite, You buy all this ice cream, it's freezing and whatnot. And, like, maybe you have to make armor that's, like, fur-lined with some, like, I don't know, insect fur or maybe feathers from the crow to essentially insulate you from the cold so you can actually, like, withstand it. Or, I guess in Grounded logic, you could just, like, shovel your mouth full of spicy mints and be like, oh god, oh god. Finally, going off of that, there was a little clip here where you see one of them, I believe it was Max, because, Max is the best one, and he's holding the Coltana from the first game, which we all know that thing was, like, made of Ever Charcoal, which also means that, does that imply that the Ever Charcoal is just, like, a full brand thing that does Ominous just make everything? I don't know, I'm rambling. Regardless, it looks like the Coltana's making a comeback because it's a fan favorite. Of course it's gonna. But also, I wonder if it's gonna have effects like Breath of the Wild. So for those who don't know, there's also temperature in Breath of the Wild, obviously. And you can use stuff like clothing and food to augment your abilities and, withstand the cold or the heat better. But you could also use weapons. So, for instance, if you have the Flamebrand sword, or I guess in Tears of the Kingdom, you put like a Fire Lizalfos horn or a Gliok, one of the fiery things on it, that would keep you warm. It would actually make your internal temperature tick up to the hotter side. And vice versa, if you kept like one of the ice Lizalfos or, you know, an ice Gleeok or, you know, the frost brand weapon. You know, you get the idea. The hot ones made your body hotter, the cold ones made your body colder. And Grounded also has their own flavors, literally flavors of elements. So I'm wondering if maybe holding something spicy, especially something that's like fiery like the Coltana, will give us those augments to be able to, like, you know, work with, you know, the different, you know, areas. Because, you know, how great would it be if you could just be like, oh man, I want to just keep wearing my armor I have now, but I want to actually go hang out in the sandbox or whatever the warm area is. Or if this, you know, this is all hypothetical, I guess, you know, I'm saying it again. But like, or if you go to hang out in that cold area, you know, like just keep your Coltana on you, you're set. But, you know, food for thought. Hey guys, Editing Jimmy here. So I kind of noticed at the end here, while looking closely at this weapon, that I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know why I thought this was the Coltana. I think I got really excited seeing it the first time and being like, oh my god, it's the Coltana! But that clearly is a new sword, so, I don't know if the Coltana is actually confirmed yet. I don't think, and as far as I can tell, we haven't seen it now that I know that this one's not. But it'd be cool to see it again. Regardless, I left this section in because I talked about some stuff that looks like it actually might have some credence to it. So I was talking about how there might be cold temperatures as opposed to just sizzling in this game. And it looks like if you look really closely here in the trailer for just a few frames while they're fighting the butterfly, you can see the corners of the screen start to actually get chilled up and almost have like a snowflake pattern on it when they get attacked by that butterfly. So it looks like I was onto something, and we definitely are going to have to take care of being cold as well as being too warm in this one. So, but I'm sure a lot of other people came to that conclusion as well, especially seeing the, you know, entire frozen biome. So, but regardless, I thought I'd just bring this stuff up. So the devs have also said that someone was pouring like toxic waste into the park at one point, and I'm wondering if that also might have had something to do with the evacuation. Because, yeah, toxic waste. But, I mean, when you apply Occam's razor, there was also the explosion, like, prior to the events of the game, like, directly prior to the events of the game. So, I'm assuming that's the cause of the evacuation. But, I don't know, you know, it could be just, like, a two birds thing going on, like, oh god, so we have one half that's fucking toxic, you're just gonna die and get radiation poisoning, and the other half, you just can get blown to bits! Just no one's in this place, no one's allowed. Regardless, it sounds like we're gonna be getting our money's worth out of the gas mask skin, so sorry, Weevils. And also, the devs were saying they were pouring the toxic waste over an anthill, so I assume we can expect more toxic bugs in this game. I do gotta say, I love the Thor was here, that's so cute. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, this is a big day for his dad. Of course he's gonna be there for him, you know? I wonder if this means we'll see any signs of Sarah there too. Or more importantly, their charms, because those things were broken. We also see a lot of Omnid facilities they explore. And, of course, in true Omnid fashion, some of them are in complete disarray. You know, shit scattered everywhere. A dead body over in the corner. And the prom's on Friday. But it's just great to fucking see that their work environment hasn't gotten any better over the past 2 years. Relatable. Crackpot theory here for a moment though. What if Omnid is the one that like caused the explosion? Because, well, obviously, but they were using the whole event where they're, you know, making the statues of the teens, Tully and Burgle, as a whole, like, you know, PR event. Oh, we're not bad anymore. Look at us. We're great. And then, like, meanwhile, on the other side, you know, they're using, like, hey, we built this statue. And then maybe even underneath the statue. Like, I have a feeling there's going to be a very important lab underneath the statue of those guys. You know, maybe even, like, we only see the statue of Tully and Burgle, to my knowledge. So maybe the other teens are, like, spread throughout the park. And if that's the case, I'm guaranteeing you those bastards put a lab underneath every single one of those statues. Cause you know them, they're fucking crazy. But regardless, with them making the facilities throughout the park here and there, you can see them, you know, spreading themselves too thin like they did with the first game, having some conundrum happening. Now, shit. Or maybe the explosion was planned? I mean, Tully and the teens did go missing right after, so... But, like I say, crackpot theory, you know? But, on the other hand, we do see that the police cars that are investigating the crime scene at the beginning of the trailer are Omninent branded. Which means Omninent is potentially in charge of investigating the explosion. And I have a feeling that this will be the diegetic reason as to why there's no humans investigating the park during the events of the game, you know? Because from a story purpose, you could just, you know, let's say they have the hazmats coming in to check out the toxic waste, or they have the bomb squad checking in the explosion, or the police in general because there was an explosion, or the police in general because 5 people went missing, or the police in general because, more importantly, Burgle doesn't have a dad anymore! But anyway, if Omninent is the one that's in charge of this investigation, and they're also the ones behind these disappearances behind Tully and the teens, it would make sense that the cops aren't actually, you know, walking around trying to actually find the teens, you know? They'd be like, oh, we're doing everything we can. We're Omninent cops. Don't throw bricks at us. But in reality, you know, they're actually like trying to like cover up the whole operation, making sure that these 5 are never seen again, you know? But, you know, like I said, crackpot theory, who knows? Now this one is interesting. On the Steam page, they say at the bottom of the blurbs for the game that there's this shadowy figure that's always watching you. It's always learning about you, and it's always following you. And they don't give you much more than that. But I think I have an idea to maybe who they are. So, partway through the trailer, you'll see them exploring another Omninent facility that looks a little ransacked. But on the wall, you'll see this spray-painted purple logo that almost looks like an ant head or something. Definitely some sort of insect head. But I bet you this is the mark of the person who's following us. Whether they're Omninent, whether they're not Omninent. But regardless, I have several ideas who this may or may not be. Now, first of all, it could just be Omninent still, you know? They're not above making weird fucky science things. I mean, Tully worked for them and he made this thing. And I have gender envy. And could you really put it past Omninent to want to make some, like, horrible Jurassic World-esque abomination bug to chase down these teens? Because they know they've escaped before. They've gotten back to normal size, and apparently that already became a big problem because they have to do this whole PR stunt, potentially. But I guess it also didn't blow over too hard because the news called them formerly evil company, Omninent, so maybe they were able to work the strings pretty well?
Formerly evil company, Omninent Practical Technologies.
My second idea is, what if it's the 5th kid? So, hear me out here. For those who don't know, in the first Grounded, there was also a 5th kid with you guys when you launched. He just woke up before the other 4. You can even see where he was hanging out for a little bit. He's got one of those little lean-tos that's underneath the porch going to the back of the house. He even has a little note page that explains the situation. And the interesting thing about this is, it's honestly up for debate if he's actually alive or not. So his note was kind of left unfinished, kind of leading to credence that something got him. Probably a spider. But on the other hand, usually when one of these characters with the little data entries dies, you usually have to get the data entry itself from the skeleton that you loot from them, kind of leaving behind the actual proof that they died. It's called the Deuce's Charm, and it lets you run faster once you punch a spider, so it kind of implies that he may have gotten away from that encounter, you know? Regardless, what if he did survive? I mean, think about it. I would have a lot of beef with the company that shrunk me. And now imagine if you see the same company is building a statue to the other kids who actually managed to get back to normal size. regardless of whether or not Ominent is good or evil, or even if the teens and Tully are still affiliated with them, that may be how the 15 sees that, and still regardless sees them as an enemy and or a threat. And then, decides to try and, hunt them down throughout the entire events of the game. Or it could be something more of a misunderstanding where it still would be the 15 and they have, beef with Ominent, but they see you working with Tully, who's a known Ominent person, and they see you as a threat there because, they're like, oh, he's working with a scientist with Ominent, or, whatever. But, regardless, another crackpot theory. And finally, the third idea I had was, what if this is an Ominent agent? Like a rogue Ominent agent. So, think about it. These guys have had some of the worst working conditions, I can think of. Imagine if your boss told you to go fight a giant wasp queen. Like, would you do it? I would just walk the hell out of there, But regardless, you see these people dying for almost stupid, futile reasons all the time to go and try and control a wasp queen, to go and investigate Tully in general, to shrink down so we're, staying hidden or whatever they're trying to do, having them split up while they're shrunk down. For God's sakes, you even see one who decides to betray his own people and decides to become one with the ants and live with a cave. And then you get to learn to make ant totems with them. But the point is, they don't value their workers. And what if someone got fed up from that? What if there's someone who was shrunk down and, split up like they all were doing and decided to be like the ant totem guy and say, fuck it, I'm living with the bugs. Screw these guys. But then he sees that PR stunt that they're planning, and he's like, ooh, this is it. This is my plan to get revenge. And causes those catastrophes that happen. But I don't know, I'm just spitballing some ideas here, so let's continue on to the next stuff. Another idea I was pretty excited about was, what other pop culture references are we gonna get? So, it's 1992 now, and the first thing I obviously thought was, Sonic exists! Because my entire time playing through Grounded 1, it starts in October of 1990, so, Sonic doesn't exist yet. The Genesis does, what would the teens, the gamer teens at least, I'm assuming Pete would, well, his parents will illustrate, Max, I don't think Willow would be that interested, and Hoops' parents don't let her play video games, so the only one I can guarantee would probably be Max, but regardless, what does he do, go home and play fucking Altered Beast? I guess he'd have an NES. Tully's kids probably have an NES since they have a Battletoads toy. And going off of that Battletoads idea, I really don't see them getting the rights to make a reference to something like Sonic the Hedgehog or some crazy big name, IPs that happen around the time. As cool as they'd be, that'd still be potentially a lot of money that can go towards, an actual game development. So, I think we should probably look towards more realistic references. And going off of what we know with the first game, they seem to be able to get their hands on Rare references since it was a Microsoft game. And that made sense too, since Microsoft funds the game and they own the rights to all the Rare stuff, so. Regardless, I ended up Googling what games they made in 1992, and the notable releases were RC Pro-Am 2 and Wizards and Warriors 3, Kuros, Visions of Power. Real talk though, RC Pro-Am did get pretty popular. Diddy Kong Racing was almost going to be a Pro-Am game itself, so I could see them having little references to Pro-Am by having cars throughout the park here and there, Just some food for thought. I guess they also made the Beetlejuice game that year, but I don't think Obsidian's going to want to pay for the licensing just for a reference, Anyway, let's continue on to the next segment, the new materials. So, like I was talking about before, there are a few new materials that we see in the trailer right away. So, for instance, you can see someone mining what looks like a frozen strawberry or maybe a piece of candy in the ice cream cart biome. But going off of that, we also see someone making what looks like a lattice kind of wall with popsicle sticks. So I'm assuming we'll get those from that biome as well. We also see cherries in one of the opening shots, which makes me wonder if other fruits are going to be in the game, because there was the generic berry in the first game, and the cherry along with this now, so I'm wondering if there's going to be other types of fruits and have different effects. Maybe some are food, maybe some are still leather or building materials. but it'll be interesting to see. So we can assume that any new bug that's going to get added is probably going to have its own set of drops as well, and since we're going to save the bugs for the next segment, I thought I'd bring up some ideas I had for potential building materials from that ideas video I had earlier. So the first thought I had was, Legos here. So think about it. I mean, these things are pretty sturdy, all things considered, so they could potentially work as a late game building tool. See, I'm imagining you need like a high tier hammer, like a tier 3 hammer to bust apart the clutch power between these bricks. But once you can break them down into individual pieces, you can kind of hold them in your inventory like mushroom bricks in the first game. And maybe you could even like choose the color they come down as, or even going off of that, what if we could like just paint any of the walls or floors that we make anyway? And that way we'd have more customization to go off of. But diegetically, you'd also have all the different colors of bricks, because, you know, they're building blocks. See, I originally had this idea for a potential sequel idea where it would take place partially in a house, and you'd essentially get these materials while you're in the house biomes of the area, but, you know, we're in a whole park, and kids come to the park all the time, so this wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to see, like, a couple Lego builds just kind of clumped in the sandbox of the park, or maybe underneath a couple swing sets or something, or, I don't know, even, like, right by the entrance, maybe they dropped it on the way home or something, and you can just come and bust them down and take the individual pieces and use them as building material. But, I don't know. The second one I have here is a little more plausible, where I think a lot of trash could be used as materials. For instance, a bottle cap could be cut down or shaped into a shield, or maybe 4 bottle caps could make wheels, and you could make like a wagon and have like a big bug pull a wagon for your whole team, or maybe even have one of the turrets for defending your base on the wagon, and then you have a mobile turret, and like you could have one guy on like the dagger and hold it on like a mountable like spider or something, and they're just cleaving through bitches on the spider, meanwhile you're in the turret. It'd be great, you know? It'd be awesome. But now hear me out here. If we want to go all out, we could even use, like, paper or something to make, like, gliders and stuff like that. I mean, there's also, like, the unused glider that's in the data for the first game, so we could even start with, like, the trash paper wings and work our way up to the ones kind of having, like, a tier system, like how Smallland does it. But that's just some rambling ideas I had while jotting down this script today, so I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. Alright, now's the part that I was excited for, the new bugs. So, I'm by no means an entomologist, I'm just some random dude in a room. But I kind of wanted to track down what I thought was the closest, you know, species of insect for each of these new bugs shown off. And I think if not hit it on the head, I think the nail and the hammer were definitely close somewhere in the line. So let's go over them, and if I'm wrong, feel free to obviously yell at me in the comments for being stupid. But the first one up is the caterpillar. This guy's all green and covered in spikes, and he also has a couple of red and green lumps over him. So, judging by the way he looks, I'm gonna guess he's a Suckerpia moth caterpillar. Suckerpia these nuts, guy! Next up is the snail, and I'm honestly kind of excited about this guy. We had that snail shell you could find in the yard in the first game, but there was no snails, and they're cute as shit. I mean, who doesn't love snails? Mollusks, it's a hard word to say. Mollusks across the board are some of the cutest little creatures, and we all love them. And mollusks is a hard word to say. Either way, this guy looks like he's a brown garden snail. Man, we finally got butterflies. I remember being really shocked that they weren't in the first game, so it's nice that they're finally here. Anyway, looking at the blue outer part of the wings with the white speckled under part of the wings makes me think that this is a holly blue butterfly. Hey, we're finally getting scorpions! We're already 50% of the way through my Animal Crossing trauma! So we actually end up seeing 2 variants of the scorpion in the trailer. So the first one is red, and the most famous species of red scorpion that I could find was the Indian red scorpion. And it's also apparently known as one of the world's most deadly scorpions, so we gotta buckle up and lock in. And the second variant is this purple scorpion with almost teal-like parts on it, and I honestly didn't really find any real-life inspiration for this one. But I think that's for a reason. I think this is an infected one from the toxic area. And one of the main art pieces they made for the game, they show the game fighting one of these things, and its eyes are glowing purple, and all of the infected insects from the haze also had this purple eye effect on them. Granted, it looked slightly different, but the idea is still there. And with the blue coloring on it, this could be a reference to how scorpions glow under black lights. The new bug the devs confirmed is going to be in the toxic area though is the cockroach, which, that makes sense. They can survive like nuclear holocaust, so of course they can survive whatever the fuck's going on over here. These guys in game just look like generic American cockroaches, which that makes sense too since Grounded takes place in America, so yeah, it checks out. And last but not least, we're finally getting a mantis as a regular enemy! That's so cool! I mean, don't get me wrong, the Orchid Mantis was my favorite boss in the first game, but I was really disappointed that there wasn't just a regular enemy variant of it, so seeing them rectify this with the sequel is amazing! It seemingly even fights like a scaled down version of the boss fight. Get it? Scaled down? But regardless, the devs look like they're definitely going for the generic garden mantis look, but with those big yellow eyes on the side, it really makes me think it's a mantis religiosa. Which is kind of weird since that one's a European mantis, but like I said, I think they're just trying to go for the vibes of a garden mantis, and that is the image for the Wikipedia page on mantises in general, so I can't really blame them for taking that as its design. And now with the new bugs out of the way, we can talk about the gameplay itself! This game is straight up Bug Souls now, and I'm here for it! In all seriousness, this time around the teens have a dash button, and they also have a heavy attack, which turns combat into a game of rock, paper, scissors. You know, with heavy attacks breaking shields, but light attacks being more versatile. The devs also said they're going to focus more on the specking into classes, so that way, if you wanted to go for a glass cannon damage build, go for it. Or if you wanted to tank every single hit in the park, you can also do that. But we all know what the most important thing they added was mounts. Or buggies as they're calling it, which is so cute. So it looks like they're going to have 2 buggies ready at launch. The first one is the Soldier Ant. This one's going to be really good when building. He can help you carry planks, but if you do get into combat, he can enlist the help of 2 worker ants to help him. Now the real fun one looks like it's going to be the Orb Weaver. This is the combat buggy. So first of all, it looks like it can make web bridges, which is going to make traversal a lot easier if that's the case. But in combat, this bad boy's really going to shine. So he can scream and that will stun enemies. But if that's not going to hold him down long enough, just turn your ass on them and shoot webs. It's going to work perfectly. Look at this. So one of the ideas I had for the buggies though was, what if we could customize them? So obviously the mounts have to have saddles on them for you to ride them. But when I was looking at one of the Orb Weavers at first, I thought the handlebars the teens hold on to is actually just a little bow they put on the spider as an accessory. And that got me thinking, what if we could accessorize our bugs? I mean, think about it. There's 4 players in the game, but we're only going to launch with 2 rideable bugs. So how are we going to be able to differentiate whose spider is whose and whose ant is whose? It would be pretty cool if we could accessorize them, even if it was just like the color of their saddle or something like that. But on to the final thing I want to talk about. I do have an idea for a mount for a bug that needs to return. Obsidian, I'm begging you. Please let us ride the roly-polies. Look, I even drew up a diagram. Here, you can use this idea for free. I even had our channel artist Yumi drop a mock-up that's much better than mine, so you can kind of get an idea of what it might look like. My idea is that it can walk around normally. It holds onto that wooden beam in the middle, and I'm thinking whether it's somehow with wheels counter-rotating to keep it on top or whatever, or video game magic, the saddle will stay on top and the roly-poly will roll underneath and you essentially just I guess the closest visual indicator I can think of off the top of my head would be the wheelie bikes from Kirby Air Ride. You know, with it kind of just being one wheel and you like sit on top of it, just I just think it'd be really cool to have a mount that has 2 modes. It has like the walk mode where it moves around like you normally see it in Grounded. It can even do that big attack where it like whips up its head one way and just and attacks and does like that slam attack. Or if you want to cover ground fast, you could just switch into roll mode and just zip away. And if they really wanted to go all out, they could put some like jumps all over the park and you could just use them to get some sick air, I'm betting. I mean, come on, it would be amazing. And if they really wanted to go all out, they can make a blue and green variant of the roly-poly as a reference to my boy Roly McFly. Cause you know Bugdom needs more respect in this day and age. Come on, Obsidian, let's make it happen. You know you can do it. Come on, let's do it for me. Nah, but for real, I would be eternally grateful. You guys would own my eternal soul. You know that, right? Like, I would burn in hell for the rest of eternity just for this in this game now. You know, like, money's on the table. Money's on the table, Obsidian.